Jelani Cobb and Molly Jong-Fast are back with us, and I'm joined now by LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter and founder of the Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium. LaTosha, my friend, I want to go right to you because when all of the talk started about whether Biden should stay or go, there was literally only one person I wanted to talk to, and you were on vacation. So I was like, this lady's not, please come back to America so I can talk to you. You are one of the signatories. It is now, I believe, up to more than 2,000 or maybe 2,600. Melanie Campbell texted me, there was something like 2,600 women, black women have now signed this letter urging President Biden to not leave the race. Explain to me why you think not, and also as somebody who would actually be the person trying to turn out votes, what do you make of this idea that he cannot win the election?
You know, there's three things kind of why we wrote the letter. And even a week before that, we put out a statement at Black Voters Matter saying that this is not the time for us to go in being confused and for chaos, that people need clarity and we need to literally do the work and go move forward. That ultimately what we wanted to make sure is that we are sending a sign loud and clear that at this late in the game to really be able to create when we have not heard from as far as we know, the Biden and the Harris ticket, it is the ticket that 14 million people actually voted for, that there was a primary and people sent their message. In addition to that, what we want to make sure is that we're sending that message that at this point, the goal is not infighting. Our fight, our target is Trump, that we need to recognize that there is an existential threat that is happening in this nation right now. And looking at last night, if anybody saw the debate last night, they should be reminded of what it is that we're up against. And so it's really important, instead of us seeing this elite Democrats, of which I've not heard of, not a single high-level Democrat has called us, those of us that are actually working on the ground, to ask what we're hearing on the ground or what people on the ground are saying. Overwhelmingly, when we test the people that we work with, they're saying that this isn't time for us to unify and to move forward. And so that's why we decided that we're going to send a message loud and clear. And if the president decide that, and I think it's merely his choice, what we've been hearing so far has just been conjecture, right? But it's certainly his choice. We are behind him. If he does step aside, we also believe that we already have a formidable candidate. We can move forward because we can have VP Kamala Harris really leading the ticket. And it is a no-go if we're talking about having a broker convention. It has never worked in the past, and we don't think that it will work now, and it will be totally unacceptable for voters who've put our faith behind this ticket to move forward and get a win and go towards November.
And let me ask you this, because there is the question of if, let's say, this magical broker convention, which, by the way, the rules do not allow for the magic to happen that people are speculating, but, you know, let's just say somehow they did a broker convention. I think it's a bit offensive, people saying, well, Kamala Harris, vice president, has to earn it. Really? She did. She got 14 million votes plus 80 million last time in the election. But that seems offensive to me. But let's say this ticket came out and it was, you know, Josh Shapiro and Gretchen Whitmer. You are the one who would then, the ball would be passed to you, my friend, and organizations like yours to turn out the vote. Are black voters, are voters of color going to come out strongly for a ticket that, knowing that Vice President Harris was skipped, in your view?
Absolutely not. We're sending the message loud and clear. We're sending a message to the Democratic Party that we already have a ticket, that what we're hearing from the ground, from the voters that we heard, the 14 million that voted in the primary, that there is a ticket that under no circumstance, and let me just say as a black woman, and literally we have a formidable VP candidate who has actually garnered millions of votes, that ultimately the idea, even the notion that when I've spoken with people, even the notion that she would not be at the top of the ticket is quite frankly extremely offensive to women, to voters that we've worked with. And so ultimately we have a path forward. This is a time to unify, to close ranks and move forward with the ticket that we currently have.
Let me bring the table into this, because here's the thing, and I'm going to shift you from Columbia School of Journalism to my at the table historian. I think that a lot of people are making a presumption that isn't real. Sure. That black folks are more afraid of Donald Trump than at the elite level. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. There's a sense that Project 2025 is terrifying and people are paying attention to it. In the real world, people are like, which one of them other than Obama and maybe Clinton hasn't been Donald Trump? You know, Andrew Johnson was Donald Trump. You know, Andrew Jackson was Donald Trump. Woodrow Wilson was Donald Trump. Ronald Reagan, in many ways, is Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. The regular folks are like, How does my life change differently? It doesn't. Am I going to come out and stand in line for 8 hours after you have now insulted every black woman in America? I just don't buy that.
Yeah, you know, so here's an interesting little footnote. Some of us will remember back to 2008 when there was the Democratic convention in Denver. And, you know, going into that convention, there was all that tension between the Hillary people and the Obama people. You know, they were like Drake and Kendrick fans, you know? And so...
there are only Kendrick fans in this analogy, but go on.
Right. I didn't say who was who, but, you know, when you got into that convention, Jimmy Carter, of all people, said something really interesting. He said, you know, when you have disunited conventions, you have losing candidates.
Yeah.
He said 1976, the Republicans were torn between Ford and Reagan, and I won. In 1980, the Democrats were torn between me and Kennedy, and Reagan won.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you're going to skip into this kind of brokered convention and that all of the ill will, irrespective of who wins,
right,
even if there's a Harris ticket with someone else, there will be such enmity and such antagonism that it'll be difficult for that to resolve by the time that you get to the election, which is just 2 months later.
Not 2 months later. The election will be in September. Because remember, early voting begins in September. So you're talking about coming out of an August convention, Molly, with disunity. And the Democrats looking a hot mess. When the other party is like, neo-Nazis, please stay.
Yeah.
You're welcome to be here with us. And yet it's the Democrats who look like a mess.
Yeah, and the stakes could not be higher. And the reality is, if you want Biden to drop out, this is the ticket. She is the heir apparent. This is how it goes. All of this West Wing fanfic, that's not how any of this goes, right? It's not how it works, and it's not how it should work, right? She is the vice president. She has been doing this job for 4 years, and she also has done a great job. And the fact that a lot of white men and a lot of men in general feel that they can put together a ticket of untested people who they like better.
And most people don't know. Let's be honest. A lot of governors who they know, people who watch MSNBC know, but average people don't know, who don't pay attention to this stuff. The last thing I will say, and I'm gonna give you the last word on this, LaTosha, AOC, Alessandria Ocasio-Cortez, she did a 1 hour long live on Instagram today that I recommend everybody watch. We don't have time. I was going to play a clip, but we don't have time. But she goes through and she says that she's in these rooms, and what she hears are two things: my donors, my donors, my donors, not my voters, my voters, my voters, from the people who want to swap out President Biden. But also, she confirmed what I have heard from a lot of African-American members, that the push is not just to get him out, it's to get them out. And that the same people who are trying to push President Biden out also are not necessarily supportive of Kamala Harris. What do you make of that?
That will absolutely kill the ticket. The Democrats can go on and they can call this race. If that happens, that will kill the ticket. But at the end of the day, for that kind of level of disrespect, not only for the VP, but for the millions of voters that have supported this ticket, that would actually be a no-go. And so I hope that they're listening, and I hope that they hear loud and clear that what I have heard from the ground as an organizer, we don't have the time to ramp up to get people to know folks that they don't know already. We have a formidable candidate and a team that is already in place. We have to move forward.
Jelani Cobb, Molly Jong-Fast, LaTosha Brown, the dream team here on a wonderful Friday. Thank you all very much.